My name is Kevin Newman, and the real beauty of being a journalist is you don't have to claim expertise in anything. You just have to be able to tell stories about real things that happen to real people. So I'm having lunch with my son last weekend, actually, who I've just spent 2 years co-writing a book with, getting to know better as an adult, and frankly, reconciling our relationships. And in 2 weeks, he's going to board a plane and leave for Australia. Thanks, Dad. Good to get to know you. See you in our 40s. He's given up his job. He's given up his friendships. He's given up his boyfriend. And so I asked him at this lunch, I said, how are you so sure of what you're doing? He said, it's my destiny. I said, perfect. I've got this talk in a week. And I don't know what destiny is. What's your answer? And he says he knows this is destiny because it was something that he was starting to feel inside him just a little bit 2 years ago. And then it became a nag. And then it became an obsession. And then it absolutely overwhelmed him. And then about 6 weeks ago, he sat down in front of a friend of his who was into tarot card reading, and he asked to have his tarot cards read. And every single card that flipped over said the same thing. Do it. Now. Go. And for him, that was the tipping point. It was a spiritual moment that reinforced his very human, physical instinct for change. He believes now that his path is affirmed. He has a destiny. It is not with me. It is in Australia. And ever since he has received that knowledge, and it was only 6 weeks ago, he's been flooded with the most fantastic job offers that are not in Australia. He's been offered his dream job in San Francisco. He's been offered a job in New York. And he comes to me and he tells me these things, and I'm going, He says, no, my destiny is in Australia, and that's where I'm going to go. He's sticking with it. And I have to say, I found his belief that something can guide your future interesting, because I've never really believed that. For most of my life, I've assumed that destiny only became clear in the rearview mirror. That you had to stand in a place after a certain amount of time, look backward and say, how the hell did I get here? And I think I was influenced in that thinking by one of my first news editors, a tough old asshole, who said very early in my career, I went to him and I said, how did you know you were going to make it? He said he didn't. He said, what looks like destiny in life, particularly later in life, is simply a series of choices made over time. He only really understood them in hindsight. The path that those choices led him through was perfectly clear now. Destiny to him was simply the road that he traveled and finding meaning in it at a certain point in time. And that made a lot of sense to me over the years, I have to say, because I never expected to have the career that I've been fortunate to have. I never planned to see this much. I never planned to get this far. I never even fantasized it would be this good. When opportunities presented itself, I generally took them. I usually listened to my gut. If my gut said yes, it usually worked out. And then I usually listened to my head. I still took them, listened to my head. Those didn't generally work out, the ones from the head. One of them was I took a job co-hosting at Good Morning America where my head just said, that's a hell of a lot of money. And that's why I took it, and it only lasted 8 months. But that failure taught me lessons, as we've heard from other speakers here today, that contribute to a success that I had in setting up something called Global National. But was any of that destiny, really? I didn't think so. Destiny didn't seem all that mysterious to me. And I had that opinion reinforced over the years as I've asked other famous people about destiny. I had the incredible fortune to have a short interview with Nelson Mandela after he was released from prison after 27 years. I asked him about destiny. If ever a man had destiny, you'd assume it was him. And he said that destiny to him was the values that you attached in those moments of decision in your life. Do I take it? Do I not? Do I do this? Do I not that? He overlaid the idea of values. That if you have reflected and thought critically about how you treat people, the nature of your own power, what footprint you want to leave here for your time, and what impact you want to have on others, then when you have those moments of decisions, you're attaching some thought and some values to it. And perhaps that's a little bit of secret sauce of destiny, that you've done some thinking about values so that when someone who has reaches those moments of decision, the destiny possibly could be greater. Justin Trudeau actually thinks in a similar way. Here's someone who has lived his entire life with the assumption of destiny since he was a little boy. But to be prime minister, he knew he had to do more than that. So one of the things he did with some of his inner circle was they had a meeting about 3 years ago around a campfire. He said, what values are we going to attach to our decision-making at those moments of crisis so that it isn't just about my destiny is to be prime minister, it's about what we want to do here. Interesting, those campfire values are still how he is so far managing to make his decisions, and the people who are around that campfire are still around his campfire right now in the Prime Minister's office. He is making choices, he is attaching values to those choices, and he is creating his destiny. Tom Hanks once told me that his career destiny came down to only one thing, and that's judging the character of whomever he decided to collaborate in life with. If he got that right, it worked. So built into each of these descriptions, in my view, destiny sounded like a very thoughtful but human concept. Ralph Waldo Emerson got to it long before I did. The only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be. And then, about 1997, I'm living with my family in New Jersey. I'm working at ABC News at the time in New York. And I get a call from my mother that her mother, a woman I called my Nana, has had a near-death experience. She'd been in failing health for a long time, lived in a home in Mississauga. She couldn't see or hear well. She was growing increasingly confused. And she died for a while, and she was resuscitated. And by the time my mother got to the nursing home, she saw my Nana bolt upright in bed. And for half an hour, she was completely lucid again. She could remember everything. She could speak, she could hear, she could see. And she had a story to tell. She told my mother, who was sitting at the end of the bed, about the tunnel of light and the woman that she had passed on that tunnel. She told my mother that it was my father's mother, probably the most influential person in my young life, who had died when I was 10. I called her Grandmother Newman. So my Nana asked my Grandmother Newman, "Why are you here?" Because my Grandmother Newman told her, "I'm keeping watch over Kevin." My Nana died forever the very next day. So what the fuck was that? How could I deny what my Nana had lived one more day to say with such certainty, with such clarity? I had a guardian, I had a spirit guide, and it was the one person that I instinctively knew it would be if I had such a thing? Suddenly, destiny seemed a lot less human. Now, I've had that knowledge for a long time now, and frankly, I've never known what to do with it. Because to accept it means I need to examine my entire current belief system to a degree that I'm not willing to, or perhaps not yet. But it also goes against my grain to believe that I am somehow so special to warrant my grandmother's attention and a delay in moving to the afterlife. That takes a degree of ego that, yes, even a network television correspondent doesn't have. But it's also uncomfortable, because like many of you, I've known people who've been taken too soon. My younger sister Kelly died at 34. I will not accept that I am somehow worthy of divine destiny and she wasn't. Because to accept what my Nana came back to tell me seems very painful. That there's a hierarchy to destiny. Some get it and some don't. So where does that leave me? What is destiny, goddammit? I now have a knowledge that it just might be more than the human choices we make, or applying the values that we espouse. There could be something extra, as my son believes. There could be even something magical or divine about it. I'm stuck. I'm in a mystery with no definition that I fully believe. But maybe there's more of us after a night like this. Thank you.